The Bohemian Club, which meets in Bohemian Grove in California, is an exclusive gathering of mostly rich white men with plenty of power. The members of this not-so-secret cabal run around the California woods annually, mostly drinking and goofing off. Here's what really happens at Bohemian Grove. One of the hard and fast rules of Bohemian Grove is weaving spiders come not here, which essentially means that no matter what, real-world deals aren't to be made at camp. There's one notable exception, and that happened in 1942. And even that's a sort of. The Bohemian Club owns Bohemian Grove, and the super-secret camping trip that happens every year only goes on for a handful of days. For the rest of the year, any members of the club can use the grounds for whatever they want. And according to Skeptoid, Bohemian Club member Dr. Edward Teller reserved the camp in September 1942. Teller would go on to be forever known as the father of the hydrogen bomb, and the groundwork for the Manhattan Project was laid there. But here's the thing. Teller was the only member of the Bohemian Club there, so it can't really be said that club members were out there planning world domination. Were they? In 1989, Spy magazine writer Philip Weiss snuck into Bohemian Grove and described the annual lowbrow theatrical production known as the Low Jinks like this. The humor was not just lame, but circa 1950s college follies lame. Those who have gotten an inside peek into Bohemian Grove say the theatrical productions are a huge deal, and the one-time production Weiss was talking about was not only filled with the type of humor an 11-year-old might find hilarious, but it also cost a whopping $75,000. That's just one of the plays the members stage for each other. There's also a more serious production called the Hijinks, or more formally, the Grove Play. Over the years, they've staged performances of St. Patrick at Tara, recited hundreds of poems, tackled subjects like the triumph of Christianity over Druidic paganism, and Jack London even wrote an original piece for the Hijinks, which was never staged. Costs go up well over $100,000 per performance, and it must be nice to have that kind of cash. Every annual meeting in Bohemian Grove has since 1880 kicked off with a ceremony called the Cremation of Care. The ceremony starts with a parade of men dressed in red hooded robes, some carrying torches, and some carrying a wooden coffin with a wooden skeleton named Care. The procession winds through camp until they make their way to the side of a lake watched over by a massive cement owl. And as spectators gather, the men playing the priests extinguish the torches. They sing a song, and a priest tells members, "Shake off your sorrows with the city's dust, and scattered to the winds the cares of life." The funeral pyre is lit, the dull cares of the world are gone, and attendees head back to camp to embark on a week of merrymaking. In 1986, the club attempted to argue, quote, that male gender is a bona fide occupational qualification, much like Hooters argued that being a female with a certain body type was a job requirement for being a server there. The Bohemian Club was less successful than the restaurant chain when it came to their lawsuits, and they were forced to open hiring practices to female employees. Of course, there's a but. Jobs for women were restricted to the dining circle and valet parking, which former summertime employee Sophie Weiner said were the lowest paying positions. She also added that there was a very literal line on the ground that marked the place where women needed to stop. And yes, this nonsense happened in the 21st century.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
Vanity Fair got a copy of the official itinerary for 2008's encampment, and there was plenty of musical entertainment scheduled. It turns out that singing around the campfire isn't just for the Boy Scouts. And that year, Sam Cooke's music was featured in a 9:15 p.m. campfire circle. It's not all fun and games, though. The lakeside talks are always a major part of the retreat, and they're usually heavy stuff. They're scheduled for every day at 12:30 p.m. And over the years, they've been given by people like Dwight D. Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, Werner von Braun, Herbert Hoover, and Neil Armstrong. At the same time, some of the most powerful men in the world are giving talks on some hugely heavy topics. There's something else going on, too. Constant drinking and what Vanity Fair calls, quote, profuse outdoor urination. They credit that to three things: gin fizzes being poured at 7 a.m., so many enlarged prostates, and such majestic natural urinals. The Bohemian Club owns 2,700 acres of redwood forests, and only a small amount of the property has been turned into a retreat. Vanity Fair and journalist Alex Shomatov suggest there's been something else going on outside the carefully groomed camp for a long time, and that's illegal logging. Shomatov was approached by former Bohemian Club member John C. Hooper, who claimed that over the course of a few years, he saw towering redwoods marked for logging, stumps replacing trees, and hiking trails turned into logging roads. Club members responded that they were logging responsibly within the guidelines of their permits, and all the money made from selling the lumber was going back into forest management. But Hooper claims otherwise, and only a few years later, the club's 100-year logging permit had been revoked, forcing the club back to the drawing board to find more modest logging proposals.